Black Order Book Club. Boom. Okay, we're here. What's up, everybody? Zach, aka Tales of a True Believer, here, back with another installment of the Black Order Book Club. We have one awesome person here today. Shout outs to you so far. Hopefully, we get some more. But today, we're here, like I said, to talk about Zack Snyder's Batman run, the New 52 run, regarded as one of the better Batman runs in the modern day. What's up, Paul? How you doing, buddy? Um, and we're going to discuss two stories from the first tier of our book club stuff, and I'll pull that up here right now. Boom. So we're going to be talking about Court of Owls, and we're going to be talking about Zero Year here today. And then next time we'll talk about Death of the Family and Endgame. But we got Court of Owls and we got Zero Year. So I got a lovely little script. I'm rocking and rolling. So what I really love about Court of Owls and Zero Year, and why I paired them together and wanted to talk about them today together, is that Court of Owls takes an experienced Batman who thinks that he knows and understands Gotham and proves him wrong. And Zero Year takes a young Bruce Wayne who knows he wants to save Gotham but hasn't figured out what Batman needs to become and what Gotham needs Batman to be. And so that look at Gotham and Batman's relationship with Gotham from two different angles and two different situations, I thought was an interesting kind of way to connect them. Rereading these stories now is interesting because Snyder has returned to many of the same themes and some of the same concepts that he's using in Absolute Batman right now. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. So anyways, let's see who we got in the chat here today. I got some comments. Who do we got here? Batman for Life. Shout outs to you. Paul, have you read this? I'll be chatting with the chat a lot today. Hilarious. But anyways, like I said, Court of Owls, Zero Year. Really excited to talk about both of them today. Before I do that, I do want to share this image up on the screen. Boom. So I'm a part of the Black Order Book Club, or Comic Club, which, as you would probably know since you're here, and we are doing an awesome charity raffle for breast cancer. We have this QR code here. I think is good for both the U.S. and our Canadian raffle as well for our Canadian brothers up there in the Great North. So I'll give you a second here, and I'll do this at the end of the show too. But you can check out this QR code if you're watching on something other than your phone. You can do that QR code right there. I'll give you like 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, it's been up. I'll show it again at the end here. But I did want to show off some of the things that I have that I donated for this raffle. So here we go. You ready for this? So number 1 is going to be my trade paperback of Weapon X here, Wolverine. It's some of the art in this is absolutely wonkers, dude. Like, there you go. Amazing stuff. So you get that. Plus, he's loose, but you get a little Wolverine Weapon X action figure to go along with it. Fair warning, these suckers, these claws come out and they are annoying. So I've tried my best to have all of them. I think I have every single one. But they look really good. Or he looks really good. Then another action figure, something on card here. Spider-Man 2099 on card. This is not the new release. This is the first release. But this guy's really sick. And you can get him too in the raffle. And then I got 3 Batman hardcovers. Let's end with the Batman, because well, heck yeah, we are. So we're going to talk about a Batman origin story here in 0 year. So why not show you guys year 1 by who is this? That's right, Frank Miller. Jeez Louise. Arguably the greatest Batman origin story everybody considers is the origin of Batman. So that's up there in the raffle as well. Then you got some 3 Jokers by Jeff Johns, also in the raffle. This is a great one. If you've never read 3 Jokers is really good. Got that hardcover. And then probably the most famous one of the bunch, next to year 1, is Batman Death in the Family. So I'm sure all of you guys here in the chat, if I can see who's all in here, you guys all know the history behind this, but this is a good one. Hardcover. Had that for a very, very long time. So yeah, that is what I am donating to the raffle. So I will bring this up one more time. Boom. You can check that out right there. Do the QR code. Go check out blackordercomicclub.com. Go check out the Black Order Comic Club on Instagram. You can see all the other people's donations to the raffle and all of that. There's a ton of really cool stuff. Signed books, custom pieces, bundles, tons of really, really cool things. So go check that out. $5. Get yourself entered into a raffle. That's pretty cool. So yeah, now let's get started. Let's see who we got here in the chat. Pops, what's up, Pops? Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for being here. Cisco, thanks for being here. Glad you're excited. All right, perfect. All right, so let's get into this here. Let me pull up the thing. So I got to remember where I'm at. Boom, there we go. Media assets. So let's get into some Court of Owls. Boom shakalaka, changing the background, baby. So for those of you that do not know, around at this time, DC was doing a reboot called the New 52, 52 different books, 52 weeks, whatever it was. And everybody was getting rebooted. Now, Batman really didn't get rebooted as much as he got everything in his canon was condensed to 5 years. Now, he still has all his Robins, like he has Damian, Dick, everybody. So he's got everyone. And it's only been 5 years, so he's still kind of young. So it's a little awkward and it's a little weird, but you get over it pretty quick because the story's written so well that it doesn't really bother me that much. So just so you know, when things feel a little wonky, it's because of the New 52 and how everything was so condensed. Everybody else got rebooted, but Batman didn't get his stuff rebooted, which I guess shows the power of Batman. He can kind of just do whatever he wants. But this Batman is really interesting because he's young, but he's also really experienced. His Bat family is established, and he's in a good place and is really optimistic about where Gotham is and where Gotham is going to be in the future. And so he unveils this plan to invest in and reshape Gotham. And that optimism is important because underneath it, I think, is one of Bruce's biggest weaknesses in this story, and that is certainty. Because Bruce believes he knows Gotham better than anyone. He knows its history, its architecture, the families, the streets, the subways, the sewers, the tunnels. Batman knows every single inch of Gotham City. And when there's a murder that happens that points towards this really mysterious wives' tale, stories that they would tell children in the at night to put to scare them. This place called this group called the Court of Owls, and Bruce refuses to believe that they actually really do exist. And it's not that the evidence isn't the problem; it's that Bruce believes that the court is something that is just make believe, and that confidence becomes arrogance. And so the fundamental conflict is established immediately, that there's this thing that's going on that Bruce is refusing to believe that is real, when in fact it is actually real. And so that creates for a really interesting story off the get-go. And it had me really excited the first time I read it, because I was like, ooh, what's going to happen next? Because this is going to implode at some point, and I'm here for the journey. So if anybody's still here in the chat, I think we got a couple people still watching. I got some questions for you. Any of you read this story before, first of all? And if you have, please feel free to chime in. But I was going to ask you guys, do you think it's really interesting to have Bruce written to be a little more arrogant than he usually is? Usually with Batman, he's really certain and he knows what he's doing. And there's been some arrogance written with Batman from a humor standpoint, but I don't know if I've ever really read Batman being so arrogant in a more serious tone. So I'm interested to see if anybody who's watching here in the chat feels the same way and what your thoughts were. And I'll get to you guys here in a minute, but I agree. Yeah, P, for sure. Definitely one of my favorite Batman reads. And so what's interesting about this, before I get into the story a little bit more, but I had gotten out of comic books, and in my early 20s, I got a job dressing up as superheroes and performing at kids' birthdays, teaching them how to be superheroes. I was Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America. I mean, you name it. I was that superhero. And I was like, I need to really get in touch with what's going on in comics right now, because if kids ask me questions, I need to know the answers. That's the actor in me. And so I started going to all the different comic shops in LA that ended up being really famous shops like Golden Apple and stuff like that. And this was the first thing I picked up. It was just ending right as I was getting back into comics. And so I got the trades of pretty much the first half of this run, but that were out at the moment, and just absolutely fell in love with this. And it then brushed me into Dark Knight's Metal and into Rebirth, and now here we are. But this story really just grabbed me, and I thought it was so good, and the detective stuff and the mystery of it, and I thought it was really, really cool. Yeah, Cisco, I agree with you. I think it's really cool. It makes just Bruce, he's just more of a human being, and I think that's really important, especially when DC tells stories. Is these guys are all really larger than life. You know, your Supermans, your Wonder Womans, your Green Lanterns, and all that stuff. And Bruce is also larger than life, but what makes him larger than life is the symbol that he represents. And so when he has these human moments, I think it makes for a way more interesting read. So I agree. Yeah, well said. So anyway, let's go back to the story here. So let's break down how the court works. So it's this secret society of all the rich people, well, a majority of rich people in Gotham that's been passed down supposedly here, that Batman's figuring out and finding out from generation to generation to generation. And they're not like some simple criminal organization that has, a mustache twirling bad guy. They're connected with political power. They own buildings. They've run institutions. Like, there's history to this group, which makes it so much more interesting to see Bruce uncover it all, because like I said earlier, he thought he knew Gotham, and in fact, he does not know Gotham. And it is a lot more of a darker place and a scarier place than I think he realized going into this. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Snyder talked about how the court represented fear of your history coming back to get you. And I thought using this secret society was such an interesting way to tell that story, and to look through at that thing through a lens of a secret owl organization. So I thought that was really cool. And I don't know if any of you guys in the chat have ever heard that before, ever listened to Snyder talk about this at all before, but I thought that was a really cool way, because when we see Bruce in this, he is very confident and he's really looking toward the future. And sometimes in life, your past creeps up on you in these moments and in this time in your life. And this is such an interesting way and such a great way through the lens of Batman to look at something like that. One thing I wrote down here, the fear that your home can suddenly become unfamiliar and terrifying. And I think that's so interesting, especially not to get into politics or anything like that, but the times that we're in, so much change is going on. And sometimes you'll look around and see things are so much different, whether it's, businesses going out of business and being replaced by something else, and it's not the same anymore. And just things becoming so much different. Then you throw a secret society who wears owl mask into that. And I think that gets a little crazy. But what I think is really cool about this is Gotham stops feeling like Bruce, the city that Bruce knows. And that is a very scary thing for Bruce, because Gotham is always used as a another weapon for Bruce, and something that he can always fall back on when things get hard. There's a safe house he knows about. There's a subway that a tunnel he can go down when he's bleeding out or something or other. And so now all that comes into question, because there could be a Talon on the other end, or something, or a trap on the other end. And what a great segue, because the Talon, a Talon actually comes into play here, once we at this part of the story. So Bruce gets a call from this guy named Lincoln March. Thank you. And Lincoln March is this rich, entrepreneur guy in Gotham City, much like Bruce Wayne, a little bit younger. And he goes to meet him, and Lincoln's talking about that something's going on. There's something dark's about to happen, and something's coming that may really screw up Gotham. And Bruce is like, what are you talking about? And right as they're about to really uncover or Lincoln's about really to tell him what's going on, a dude in an owl costume comes in and just starts kicking ass and kicks Bruce out of a window. And as Bruce is falling, he thinks back to all this family history about the buildings and things that have been built in Gotham by his ancestors and whatnot, and talks about a gargoyle that was welcoming people from the air. And lo and behold, that's the gargoyle that Bruce grabs to save himself from falling all the way to his death. The Talon, not so lucky, falls all the way down, dies. And so Batman gets the body and is in the Batcave studying it and looking, doing tests on the DNA and all that kind of jazz. Brings in Dick Grayson to come talk about it with him and to come look at it with him, because he finds out that this is Dick Grayson's great-great-grandfather. And that adds a whole new dimension to the lore and the history of Dick Grayson, because you find out that Haley Circus was a breeding ground for the Court of Owls, and they would take in young men and women and bring them in and turn them into Talons. And so, inadvertently, Bruce saves Dick from becoming a Talon in his future when he took him in and basically adopted him and took him in as Robin. So that's something interesting as well. And I wish I had some people here to ask them that question, because I wonder what everyone and who else is in the chat here thinks of that lore being added to Dick. I've read somewhere, some places that some people don't like it, and we're like, well, we're just adding stuff just to add it. But I think it just adds another thing. No one picks up on this stuff really afterwards, so it doesn't really have any long-term effects, I guess. But I just thought it was really interesting, just add another layer to the story. And as one who has the New 52 run of Nightwing, it just, there's a great little story in there and a great little arc for him in there with that as well. So I don't mind it. Not a big deal for me. But I just think it's cool that Bruce unknowingly prevented a crappy future for Dick. But yeah. So it also adds another thing, too, that the court was doing all these things under Bruce's nose this whole time, and even beforehand. And I think it just adds another thing where, like, Batman starts feeling like, dang, I am a failure. Like, I can't believe I didn't know that all this stuff was going on. And it's touching the lives of the people closest to him as well. I mean, there's a world, probably a universe somewhere in the vast multiverse of DC where Bruce didn't, not Bruce, but Dick becomes a Talon and all that stuff. And I think there is somewhere. It's popping into my head, so I'm pretty sure that happens somewhere. But let's see. So now Bruce, moving more forward into this investigation, he's finding safe houses. He's looking through the history of his family to see if anybody was killed in a mysterious way. And it leads him into the tunnels of Gotham City. And I got a cool picture in here, because this is one of the cool things I really like about reading Batman stories, is when Batman's getting down and dirty in the tunnels, he's got a little light, he's solving mysteries, and we're monologuing. I love that kind of stuff in Batman. I think that's really cool. And so Batman starts going down into these tunnels and stuff. And this is where the book gets really, really cool. And those of you that have read this before know that this is like where things really kind of started really popping off in Snyder's Batman run. Because as Batman goes down in here, he finds that this is not that one. This is a labyrinth that the Court of Owls have basically lured him into, and Bruce is not getting out of here for a while. And what's so trippy about this labyrinth is that not only is it a trippy experience for Bruce, but it's a trippy experience for us as the reader, because you have to turn the pages to read the dialogue, because it's all over the place and it's all different. And so Bruce gets trapped and he's looking at all these pictures, and there's different rooms, and he's hallucinating, and he's seeing his parents, and he's seeing talons, and he's seeing all these different things, and he's absolutely losing his mind until the court confronts him, and basically he gets jumped by the talons, or one of the talons, and they basically say, we're going to kill you now. We're going to leave you here as a trophy for anybody who ever tries to cross us again. I think they say only 3 other people have tried this before, which made me go, who are these 3 other people? But the Talon kicks his ass, throws him through a wall. All the Talons are like, yeah, kill him. Or all the little owls are like, kill him. Yeah. It's really trippy and scary. But Batman, as he's being beat up by all these different little douchers over here, he sees a picture of Alan Wayne, one of his ancestors, great-great-great-grandfather, or something like that. Great-uncle, great-great-great-uncle, for whatever it is, I forget. And he's in the picture, looks like he was begging for his life at the end, and it triggers something in Bruce to go, no, I am not going out like that. So Bruce absolutely goes crazy. He doesn't actually look like this. He's just tripping out on drugs. So this is a great, just awesome Greg Capullo image here of him just going absolutely nuts, saying, I'm not doing this anymore, and has a sick line where he says that I am sick to death of owls, and he starts kicking everybody's ass and fights his way out of there. And once he fights his way out of there, the court's like, okay, you know what? Fine. We're now going to take over Gotham. And so then it goes into City of Owls, which is like the second half of this deal. Yeah. So once Batman escapes, story expands. The Court of Owls awakens all of the Talons because they only had a couple out there doing their deeds. Can usually wake them up 1 or 2 at a time. So they got everybody out there. They starts going after all of Gotham's leaders, and anybody who's not an owl, who's got money or who's got power or any pull in Gotham City, you're on the list. So the entire Bat family is rocking and rolling. They're out there trying to save as many people as they can. And then it comes down to really the only 2 people that are left that either haven't got or had gotten saved by somebody else in the Bat family are Jeremiah or Jebediah, whatever it is, Arkham, the guy who owns Arkham Asylum, and Lincoln March. So the journey leads all the way back to they go to Arkham, they deal with everything going on there, go to try and find Lincoln March. And when he shows up, lo and behold, surprise, surprise, the Lincoln March, douchebag, been working with the Court of Owls the whole time. All right. And then throws another little wrinkle into Bruce's understanding and thinking that he knows everything about his life and about Gotham and about his history. He tells him that he is his little brother. Okay. Whoa, there we go. Thomas Wayne Jr. Okay. And the story definitely doesn't ever disprove that. It leaves it very murky. It talks about how Lincoln grew up in this orphanage, and Bruce's mom donated tons of money to that orphanage and visited it every week, and like really makes you think that there might be some truth to this. But my personal belief, nothing true to it. No one ever picked up on it afterwards, so doesn't know. But what I think it does great is add just an extra piece of doubt to Bruce, and like I said earlier, his understanding of his history and everything. So I thought it was fine. He gets a cool costume. That owl costume that you saw in the intro is pretty dope. So, all in all, we broke even with Lincoln March. Batman kicks his ass. They have a pretty cool fight. and yeah, his whereabouts become unknown. So who knows? Maybe someone will pick it up, and we'll get Lincoln March coming back and and fighting Batman. Who knows? What I will say before I move on to Zero Year is that I love the Court of Owls. Um, I really wish that the Court of Owls have been used in other media since in a better way. We got a crappy video game. I think they were the bad guys to that stupid show with the same name, the Gotham Knights show. I don't know. That was a stupid show, but there's a lot of potential for this to be a really cool live action bad guy, especially in the world that we live in now, with your secret societies and your rich people and billionaires are bad, all that kind of stuff. I think there's a lot to be mined with the Court of Owls, and I wish they came back in the comic books because there's so much that I think could be mined with them in the comic books still as well. But I thought this was such a great story and was such a great kickoff for Scott Snyder and this Batman run, and really started putting him, Black Mirror was like, yo, this guy's a good writer. Let's give him Batman. And then this really reinforced that decision to give him Batman, I think. And then you get the art by Greg Capullo. I mean, this is such a great way to kick off this run. If there's anybody still in the chat, love for you to get your thoughts and what you think. Shout outs to the Collector P. Go follow him on Instagram. He's a great guy, saying this is one of his top 5 Batman reads. It's definitely one of my top 5 Batman reads as well. So definitely check it out if you haven't checked it out. So now let's move on to Zero Year, which is awesome. So I know that death of the family goes on in between this, but I thought, like I said earlier, the connection with Gotham City makes these two a really good read together and a good discussion together as well. So let me get to my notes. I wrote a lot of notes, did a lot of stuff with this one today. Yep, here we go. Okay, so let's transition to Zero Year. Origin stories. So if you're going to reboot Batman, we got to at least tell some cool origin story. Well, I can reboot, but tell some cool origin story about Batman. And everybody who does a Batman story usually does their own little spin on Batman's origin and how he became Batman. Now, like I showed you earlier, this exists. And this is the best Batman origin for sure. Hands down, bar none, this is the benchmark. But what I think that does really well is it's a grounded crime fiction, and this Zero Year is like a superhero, like epic origin with bright lights and huge set pieces and like blacked out cities and superstorms and like all this really bombastic, awesome stuff, and it's just different. Hey, what's up, Matt? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Welcome, sir. And so I think Zero Year is not so much trying to reinvent the wheel. It just takes the wheel and just puts a bunch of cool stuff all over it and turns it into like a spinner. For those of you that remember the spinner wheels that everybody was trying to get in the early 2000s, they even had them on shoes. I didn't have them, though. But yeah, like I said, the Gotham's like overgrown into this like foresty wilderness, and Snyder uses that big scale to tell just a fundamentally different origin story. Like Court of Owls, like I said earlier, asks whether Batman understands Gotham, and Zero Year asks what Gotham needs Batman to become. And so I think that's a really, really cool way to start going into this year. Is like, what does Gotham need Batman to become? And it's so interesting that that's one of the things that they took and used in the Robert Pattinson Batman movie is him being a symbol and growing into what Gotham needs him to be, not what he thinks Gotham needs him to be. And I think that's a really cool story you can always tell with Batman that is always going to be good and is always going to be really fun for a fun read for somebody. But I am interested to think, if anybody, Matt, I'm interested to hear if you've read this before, what your thoughts are on them retelling this origin story and what your thoughts are on it. And if you do type it in, bring it up here, but let's get into it. So Bruce Wayne returns to Gotham after years away. We don't see any of the pearls getting shot. We don't see any of that. Nothing. All right. So Bruce comes back and he allows the world to continue believing that he is dead while he secretly wages war against this crime organization called the Red Hood Gang. And he's like going into this mass vigilante. He's not Batman yet, but he's going around and is trying to take on this Red Hood Gang. Now, the Red Hood Gang in this is really cool, and they do something interesting with it where the Red Hood Gang could be anybody. And so the Red Hood Gang, they manipulate people. They bring people into their ranks that don't want to be in there, and everybody's numbered, and they are all ran by Red Hood number 1. And so it adds a lot of layers to what's going on in this thing, because you never know who's going to be under the hood. It could be somebody that got forced to be there. It could be somebody that didn't want to be there. And so it's just really interesting, and it puts Bruce in a really difficult spot because he could go out and just kick everybody's ass if they were all just, henchmen for one bad guy. But it's a lot of people with stories and situations that put them in that place that may not be the most evil, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But at the same time, all that's going on, Bruce's uncle, Philip Kane, which is a retcon, this is the first time he's ever shown up before, is running Wayne Enterprises. And so Uncle Phil represents the possible path back for Bruce into public life and what he sees, what it would take for him to be running Wayne Industries like that. And he ends up tracking Bruce down and wants Bruce to return to public life and take responsibility for the company, step into his family's legacy, and all that stuff. And what's interesting about Phil is working for him is Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler. And he is his strategist and advisor, and he helps Phil basically run the company, which is really interesting take as well, having the Riddler run Wayne Enterprises. But he believes he's the smartest person in the room, like the Riddler usually is. I like his characterization in this. His design, you could flip a coin. It doesn't bother me, but I understand that why it would bother some people. The mutton chops is a look for sure with the Riddler, but I dig it. I like it. I think it's, I don't mind it. But this is Bruce quickly recognizes how dangerous Edward is, and quickly clocks him as somebody that he needs to keep an eye on because there's something not right about that guy. And so Phil isn't directing Riddler's eventual. Oh yeah. Anyways, yes. Blah blah blah. So, anyways, things get rocking and rolling. Phil fires Nygma, and Nygma retaliates by arranging Philip's death and begins pursuing his own plans for Gotham. Okay, that distinction actually strengthens one of the themes running through Snyder's Batman stories. Threats to Gotham don't always come from outside the system. Sometimes the system gives dangerous people the tools they eventually use against the city. All right, but then there's the Red Hood Gang. Now, like I said, ordinary Gotham citizens are being blackmailed, coerced, recruited into the organization. Anyone can be the Red Hood Gang, be a Red Hood. And so it's fighting something distributed throughout. He's fighting something being distributed. There we go, throughout Gotham, like a system. And Bruce still thinks he can fight the system alone. Can he? We'll find out. But what's interesting out of all of that is the relationship that Bruce and Alfred have. And so this is young Bruce. This is him pre-Batman here, trying to find his footing on how he's going to protect the city. And Alfred is there trying to help Bruce see that he could have a life. And Bruce believes that his mission requires sacrifice in that life. And because at this point, Bruce is disguising himself. He's using technology. He's attacking criminals from the shadows. But Alfred understands something Bruce hasn't figured out yet. That Gotham doesn't need another anonymous vigilante. It needs something people can see, something people can believe in. And that is a symbol, is what I'm talking about. They need something more than just someone who wants to fight, and it needs to represent something. And through all that, Bruce is nearly killed going out and trying to fight the Red Hood gang. He gets into a run-in with Red Hood #1, and he almost doesn't make it out. Then he gets back to Wayne Manor. He sits before a bust of his father, and a bat crashes in through the window. Just like, usually how it goes with Bruce, some sort of bat either crashes through a window or he falls in a cave and all that jazz. And so the bat goes through the window. Bruce realizes that fear alone isn't enough and that he needs to become something larger than Bruce Wayne. And so Batman is born. Ooh, nice. Yeah, Matt, with the flood in Gotham that destroyed the city is kind of a crossing Mad Max movie and the Batman. Yeah, I agree. And I thought it was really, really cool. And Riddler, of all people, doing it, like when I was reading it the first time, Riddler, of all people, being the one to do that, I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. He's not the villain I would think that would be capable of doing something like that. So before we get to that, though, because we're almost there, Batman's first night as Batman, okay? So Batman makes his public debut, and there's so much cool stuff that has with this. So what am I trying to say? You realize right off the bat that this Batman is all about the theatrics. Okay, he's got a giant penny that is used in Ace Chemicals here to help stop the Red Hood gang. The blimp, the motorcycle. Like, he's not hiding from Gotham anymore. This is like, I'm here. Woohoo! I'm out. I'm Batman. And I think that's just really cool. It's like Indiana Jonesing Batman a little bit with the theatrics. And like I thought that was really cool. And I love the look of his costume because I have it up here. You see it's the background. He's got the purple gloves. He's got the cool stuff on the side, like the piping, whatever you want to call that. I think it's a really cool, and the boots. It's a really cool first year costume. And yeah, Matt, I feel you. Yeah, it seems more like a Joker thing that Joker would do. But instead of it being flooded, he would flood it with like acid or something and try and burn everybody in acid. So yeah, he's no longer hiding from Gotham. Batman has arrived. And so he goes to confront the Red Hood gang at Ace Chemicals. And chaos ensues. A bunch of stuff goes down. I'm not telling you everything that goes on because you got to read it if you haven't read it. Just get more of the detail of it. But basically what happens is he and the Red Hood one get into this really sick fight. I mean, Bruce is running along a roof while it's caving in, jumps up to pull him down into the building. It's insane. But at the end of it, they're above these vats of acid at Ace Chemicals, and lo and behold, the Red Hood falls into the acid at Ace Chemicals. Bruce gets out. They never really find out what happens to Red Hood 1. As longtime Batman fans, if you're reading it, you know, in your mind at least, what you think happens to Red Hood 1, and that's that he becomes the Joker. There's a lot of ambiguity in that, but for my reading journey and how I read it, I just assumed that it was all connected. Because it does get connected to later on with the Joker, and there's a lot of stuff going on with Joker in this that we'll talk about in the next video with everybody. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Batman and Joker, but no, not Batman and Joker. So this is where Zero Year dramatically changes. Okay, so they stop the Red Hood gang. They're like, oh, we're feeling good about life. And it's not even 2 seconds after they're like, oh, great, we did it. Edward Nygma, a.k.a. the Riddler, pops up on a giant screen, and like all the screens in Gotham, and basically tells everybody, like, see, you're all screwed. And basically holds all of Gotham hostage. And you'd think, okay, we're going to resolve this really quickly, but they ended up literally doing 0 Year for like a long, long time. And so there were different little story arcs within 0 Year, and within that, you have Dr. Death. And there's a little story with people in Gotham are like being found murdered, and like there are these grotesque like bones and things sticking out everywhere, and you find out really quickly that it's Dr. Death. And you know, I don't know how many Dr. Death fans we have in here, but I think he's a really, really cool. Yeah, flooded with laughing fish. He's a really cool looking villain, and Bruce goes on this whole mystery, and you get to get a lot of cool Detective Batman stuff of him trying to solve what's going on. But yeah, Dr. Death, he was a Wayne Enterprise scientist whose research involved bone growth technology, and his work becomes twisted into something grotesque. Okay. So Batman investigates, like I was saying, and while he's investigating and all this is going on with Dr. Death, a superstorm is approaching Gotham. And so this is where Riddler starts really putting his larger plan into motion. And he uses a weather balloon system to block communications and triggers a blackout in the city so that people can't communicate, and they're going to get just taken down by this superstorm. He destroys Gotham's reservoirs, and Batman fails to stop him. Bruce loses the city, and Enigma takes control of the whole city for real. At the end of that, Bruce gets knocked out and wakes up months later, and Gotham has been transformed. There's just bushes and vines and everything overgrown all over the city. It's cut off from the outside world. Enigma controls Gotham. And this is what's really cool. Riddler doesn't simply just want money. He just wants to destroy Gotham. And he wants to prove that Gotham needs him. And so every day, Riddler challenges the city and presents a riddle, and people can come up and try and solve the riddle, and no one ever does. And but yeah, he said if someone does succeed, they can reclaim Gotham. But the riddles aren't simply jokes or gimmicks. They're like demonstrations of power, and he's using these riddles to like exert his power over people. And he's turned his intelligence into he's turned himself into an asshole, okay? And he's controlling everybody with his intelligence. And that's such an interesting take on Riddler for me, because usually Riddler's just robbing stuff and then leaving behind little riddles for Batman to solve to try and stop him because he thinks he's smarter than Batman. And Snyder has taken that and has then grown that into something on a bigger scale, which I thought was really, really cool. But yes, so it puts Batman in a position where he has to defeat an idea, not so much a guy, if that makes sense. You know, and at this point, Bruce has been stripped of almost everything traditionally associated with Batman. Like his infrastructure is gone, his tech is gone, his resources are gone, his control of the city is gone. But you have Batman. And what's really cool about Batman is his fundamental weapon is Bruce Wayne. So his intelligence, his creativity, his ability to adapt come into play big time here. You can see with this cool suit that I have here in the background. And I think I have some more 0 year stuff here too. Let's see. Yeah, like this. This is one of my favorite panels in the whole thing. But yeah, look at his cool suit here. You know, I think it's really cool. Some people don't like it, whatever. And it has one of my favorite lines in here. Bruce saves a bunch of folks in the police force. Buildings are falling over because Riddler triggered an explosion and they're about to get crushed and stuff like that. And Batman comes in and saves them and pulls them over to a safe building. And they're like, what? Who did that? And Commissioner Gordon says, that mother effer psycho in the bat suit. No offense, none taken. And I think that Snyder does a really great job with one-liners. Just a side note, Snyder does a great job with one-liners. He is always so funny. But yeah, so what did I have? Oh, I thought I had something there. But anyways, I digress. Cool suit. But this is where the connection, the thematic connections I was talking about really become interesting, because Court of Owls, right, tells Bruce, you don't know Gotham. And Riddler tells Bruce, I understand Gotham better than you. And in both stories, Batman is forced to prove understanding Gotham isn't about possessing the city, but it's about listening to it, adapting to it, and fighting for the people who live there. And I think that's a really cool thing that they also touched upon in the Batman with Pattinson. That's what the whole thing comes down to at the end when he's standing on top and he's saving everybody from the flood and all that stuff. It's about what he can become for them, not what he thinks he can be for them. And I thought that's such a really cool way to look at Batman. Such a cool way. So then we get to the final confrontation between Batman and Riddler here. How am I doing on time? I'm killing time. Let's go. So the final confrontation, Bruce has to reach Nigma through a whole convoluted thing of events that are just really interesting. You need to read it. I'm not going to go deep into that like that because I'll be here for another hour. But he has to survive challenges that the Riddler has built into Gotham. And ultimately, he has to outthink the Riddler. But in the most important difference between them, there we go, isn't intelligence. But both Bruce and Riddler believe they understand Gotham. And so Riddler believes understanding the city gives him the right to control it. And Bruce learns that understanding Gotham means accepting that the city belongs to the people living in it, not to just one single person, which I think is a really big thing for Batman to realize. Makes him a better hero, in my opinion. So Batman doesn't defeat Riddler so he can take Gotham back. He defeats Riddler so that it can belong to its people again, which I think is really cool. I think you guys in the chat will agree with me on that. I think that's a cool way to look at Batman. Because I think a lot of times in superhero stories, sometimes writers forget that like these people are here for the city. And sometimes it's all about just the hero and what the hero's going through. And, what are they really fighting for? And what Batman does so well, and all Batman books do so well, is that he is fighting for his city, which I think makes Batman a different hero and a cooler superhero than a lot of different heroes. But I digress once again. So here we go. There's a side thing that's going on here throughout this whole thing that, Alfred touches on earlier with Bruce in Zero Year here about having a life. And Snyder puts in this gal, Julie Madison, and she represents a possibility of that life, love, family, happiness, all that lovely stuff. And Alfred does imagine there's a issue where Alfred does imagine that that life Bruce could have lived, but Bruce chooses Batman, and not because he's incapable of happiness, and not because Bruce Wayne is dead or whatever, any of that stuff. It's because he believes Gotham needs Batman, and Bruce understands exactly what he's sacrificing, and he chooses that mission anyway, which I think is a very honorable thing. And also is another aspect of Batman that just makes him cool and different. And it makes for a very powerful ending. Because it isn't simply a story of how Bruce Wayne became Batman. It's a story of Bruce understanding what becoming Batman will not only cost him, but what it will mean for Gotham City. And he chooses to do that. It's not thrust upon him. It's not passed down to him. It's something that he chooses to do, which I think makes him such an interesting character and really puts him on an interesting path throughout this entire run, because I think that that you see that lens and how he views Gotham and all his relationship with Gotham throughout this whole thing. Because here, I'll show you. I don't have the dust jacket on one because I was looking through these stories, but here's volume 1 of the omnibus. Okay. So, you got that thick boy, and then here's volume 2. So that all together, that's a lot of Batman. That's a lot of Bruce going through some stuff and questioning his relationship with the people in his life, with Gotham, with himself. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. And we'll definitely dive into it with some of the homies from the club later on this month. But it's really, really good. And I really, really like these two stories. And, Death of the Family is pretty cool too. Some people don't like it, whatever. We'll talk about it with everybody else later. But these two stories I think are really, really good because, like I said earlier, Quarter Owls basically just says to Batman, you don't know Gotham. And Zero Year says to him, you can't control Gotham. And I think at the end of it, he has a way better understanding of his place in Gotham. And that's what makes these stories really, really cool. And so what I think is interesting about all of that, to bring that into now, is in Absolute Batman, he is Gotham. and like he is a part of it. He's not a rich guy looking down on it, helping kind of put it together. Like he's like in this crazy Sims game. He's one of the people in that city, and he has a different relationship with it while it being the same as he does have in this run. Because, like Court of Owls introduces wealthy families and institutions secretly controlling the city. And, like I said earlier, Snyder described the court as the idea that there are rich forces behind the city controlling things in hidden ways. And Absolute Batman takes that fear and makes it a direct thing. So all these forces have come out of the shadows and they're running the city, and it's known. And he has to, work his way through that. And he's not wealthy. He doesn't own Wayne Enterprises. He's a working class engineer. He lives inside the same system everybody else does. And then, there's Snyder's interest in Batman's fighting systems. Yeah. The court is a system of inherited power. The Red Hood gang uses fear to coerce and spread throughout Gotham. Riddler takes infrastructure and knowledge created by Gotham institutions and uses them against the city. And then Absolute Batman pushes all of those ideas to the next level and pushes them even further. He's fighting the powerful organizations, corporations, wealth, institutions. He's fighting all of that. It's just way more in your face. And I guess that's what happens when Darkseid shapes your entire universe. But what's really cool, what I like, that I think is really interesting, is looking at his writing then and looking at it now, is the New 52 Bruce has to learn throughout Snyder's run that Batman can't do everything alone. And Absolute Batman begins with a Bruce who already has lost community, right? He has a friend group and all these things, but his friends, his family, the people who are part of his identity, are gone. Like he starts with that and then it goes away and he has to figure out how to deal with that. And I think that's so cool to see a writer take tropes and themes that he was doing earlier, take those same kind of tropes and themes, turn them on their head, wrap them up real nice, paint them some different color, and it's still at its core, it's still the same thing. And I think that's such a cool thing about storytelling too, that maybe people don't look at a lot. That these are all really the same stories. They're just dressed differently and looked at from a different point of view. And it just shows that how connected we all are. No matter what we all go through, whatever lens we're going through it through, the core of it is still the same and something that we can connect on and relate to. And I think that's really cool that he can do that. But yeah, just a couple more things on it here. To use some quotes from Scott Snyder, everything that maybe there's a euphemism for in his other Batman work, there's no euphemisms in his Absolute Batman stuff. So all of his mysterious concept things, we'll get into it when we talk Endgame and Death of the Family and all that, but Dragon Joker and Monster Joker, those are things that he touched on in this run that he's definitely going full bore with Absolute Batman, which is really cool to see as being a longtime fan of his. But it's just really, really cool to see him not abandon his ideas that he had that were really, really cool, that maybe he was a young writer and he wished that he had improved on. Him just going and just doing them again, just way more directly, I think is really, really cool. So for those of you in the chat, I got 3 of you watching still. Let's go. What are your guys' thoughts? You guys fans of Court of Owls? Do you have a preference? And what do you guys think? Have you guys thought about comparing this to his, Absolute Batman stuff? Yeah, I agree. Batman is Bruce. Bruce Wayne is the mask. I feel you. I agree. Thank you, Matt. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much almost done here. Looking through my notes. Oh yeah, I wrote this and I thought I was pretty proud of it. So, closing thoughts. Okay, Court of Owls dismantles Bruce's belief that he understands Gotham. Okay, I've said this numerous times today. 0 Year teaches Bruce what Batman needs to become for Gotham. And then just to bring it all here to the Absolute Batman, Absolute Batman asks what happens when Bruce Wayne is created by Gotham itself. So it's really cool to see the progression in that, and to see that across all three stories, Snyder keeps returning to the same fundamental idea. Batman can study for Gotham, fight for Gotham, try to change Gotham, but he can never stand above it because Gotham is always changing Batman too. Thought I was really proud of that one. So hopefully you guys like that one. So yes, so that's the show for today. I got bringing this up again. You can check out Death of the Family and Endgame. We're going to talk about those primarily next week. Not really going to talk about these too much. We might go over it a little bit, but you can check out the rest of the run here for Tier 2, which is, there's some cool stuff in there. Super Heavy's pretty fun for you Jim Gordon fans. That's a Robo Bat suit, so you can check that out. It's pretty crazy. Bloom is pretty dope too. I like Bloom. Bloom's okay, interesting villain, really cool looking. If you like to read these for Capullo's art, Bloom really lends its hand to that. It's really, really good. And then if you're really feeling froggy, read Dark Knight's Metal. We're going to definitely talk about a little bit of that because there's some setups that go on in here in this run that really play into Dark Knight's Metal. And then Last Night on Earth is basically kind of like their swan song with Snyder and Capullo. It's a really cool, just kind of one-off story that like is like a far-off future distant sequel to this run. So check that out. And then, for those of you that weren't here earlier, please check out the Black Order Comic Club Cancer Charity Raffle. I'm going to keep this up here while I'm talking about it so that you can do the QR code. But we got a Canadian and we got a U.S. raffle going. There are amazing prizes in each of these raffles. Okay, I promise you, you're going to absolutely love it. You can go to the blackordercomicclub.com, okay, for information on that. You can go to the Black Order Comic Club YouTube, or not YouTube. This is the YouTube. You can go to their Instagram, and you can see all the other different things that, besides what I showed off today, I'll show off again too for those that weren't here, because I got some cool stuff. And yeah, please do that and support. We're raising a lot of good money. We're almost halfway, and we've only been doing this for 2 weeks now. So please get on, and it's like it's $5, dude. $5 to get into a raffle. Go for it. That's awesome. So we really want to reach that goal. If you do, let me pull this off, and then I'll show you one more time. If you do the raffle, this is what I'm doing. Okay, so you get the Weapon X trade paperback here with a bunch of beautiful art with the Weapon X Marvel Legend that goes with it, which I explained to you earlier. These claws are a son of a gun to keep in. There's a bunch of different ones. So yeah, I'll make sure to make they're all intact for you. Okay, then we got sealed Spider-Man 2099. This is the first release, not the re-release. So I'm sorry if you wanted the re-release. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Shout outs to Steve. $5, dude. $5 gets you an entry, okay, to win all these cool things. But yeah, this is Spider-Man 2099. And then since we talked about Batman today, okay, you want a great Batman origin story? How about the definitive Batman origin story by Frank Miller, Batman Year One? A Death in the Family, poor Jason Todd. And last but not least, 3 Jokers. Okay? So that's a pretty good haul. I'd take that haul. And like I said, go check out the Instagram for the Black Order Comic Club. It's amazing. There's a lot of really great stuff. Some great bundles, some signed stuff, some commission pieces. I mean, a bunch of different things. It's a good time. So with that said, thank you guys for coming and watching. If you just got here, check the replay. Basically just broke down, without spoiling too much for you because I want you to read it, Court of Owls and Zero Year, 2 good stories. I think Zero Year is a little more underrated than people give it credit for. And they're just 2 really awesome things that show Bruce's relationship to Gotham. Yeah, I think that's it. Perfect. This actually wasn't too super bad solo. I'm a little tired, but appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks, P. Appreciate you, Paul. You're the man. And what else? Is there anything else? Anything else that I have? Oh yeah, tomorrow, 4 o'clock, 4:15. Go check out Kingdom of Nerds on YouTube. He and I do a movie show where he tries to say troll things that get me triggered, and I try and defend them. Uh, it's a fun time. We talk movies and all that kind of stuff. And then what else? I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, coming soon to my personal Tales of a True Believer YouTube. Gonna start doing some Fig reviews. I'm gonna start doing some Omnibus reviews on some things just to get some more content out there for me. And I'm saying this on a live so that I bully myself into doing it, because now I'll be embarrassed if I don't, because I said it to people on the internet. So thank you all again for being here. You guys are awesome. And please watch. Please watch the outro video. It's there's some typos in there, but I just kind of just did some funny little things, a funny little thing. So check that out. Let the credits roll, and you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Peace.